Hello, awesome authors, and welcome to this episode of Answering the Call to Write. I am so excited to have this beautiful guest with me. She's one of my favorites. She's a regular on the podcast. I'm going to introduce her to you in a minute, but just before we start, for those who don't know, my name is Meliza, and this podcast is dedicated to help you write, publish, and promote the message that you were born to write. So please, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, do all the things, help us get this out into a broader audience. And if you're watching live in the Answering the Call to Write Facebook group, then please comment, let us know your thoughts. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. And we are so excited to have you with us. So let me introduce you to the beautiful Ginia Bishop. She is mum of four gorgeous kids, wife to Maurice. She is a social worker, and she is the author of an amazing book, Grace, the sorry, Grace to Start Over.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
early, Melissa. It's early.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's early for you. I'm in the
Well,
UK.
yeah.
I have no excuse. um, but Jenny's heart really is to help people, especially women, find the grace to get healing from the past and to move on into the beautiful future that God has for their lives. And the subtitle of this book is so beautiful. It says that you are worthy of a new beginning. And you're going to love today's episode because we're going to dig into Jenny's story, the reasons why she wrote her beautiful book, and talk a little bit about her author journey. Jenny, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I love being on here with you, Melissa.
Awesome, awesome. So let's jump straight into your story. I want to ask you, how did you discover the grace to start over?
That's a great question. And I think it discovered me. God's grace found me. I just remember being in a really dark season of my life. It was bittersweet, truly. I just found out that I was pregnant with my second child and I wasn't married.
Right.
And this time around, I was devoted in my church. I was devoted in my walk with God. And so I was really heartbroken and devastated that, I've committed this sin. And oh my goodness, will God forgive me? Will He heal me? Are things going to be okay? What do I do next? And out of that turmoil, and just imagine, being pregnant and wanting to be excited about this pregnancy and also the shame of not being married and being a leader in the church. And so I'm battling these two things. And from that, it took some time. God began to give me this message of there's grace to start over. And so when I say that his grace discovered me, it truly did. I was in pursuit of something, some answer, and God's solution was his grace.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So, what motivated you to pick up your pen and write about your story and this message of finding grace to start over?
I've always wanted to share my story because I felt so misunderstood. I I didn't realize how much the pain of my past was impacting my present. And so I was a young mom, I was a teenage mother, but as a young woman, I didn't realize how much pain I was carrying. So every Sunday, I would be at the church altar, worship would go up, and my tears would just start, bursting through the seams there. Ugly crying and all, I would find myself at the altar just crying and weeping. And I remember the ministers couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew I had all this pain that I needed to release. And slowly but surely, God began to bring clarity and reveal to me that I was carrying the pain of my past. I was weeping for the little girl who hurt so much as a young girl, up until where I was then in an unhealthy relationship. And so I really began to release that pain. But this book and writing came from a place of I wanted people to understand me. I felt like I was crazy. I felt like I was misunderstood. I felt rejected and abandoned. And I just wanted people to understand that there was words for what I experienced and that I'm not alone in it. So when I started to learn about trauma, I wanted everyone to know about trauma. When I started to learn about some of the symptoms of trauma, I wanted to share that along with other people who felt crazy and unworthy like I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's so many people that can relate to that feeling of unworthiness and that shame that comes from the trauma of the past. And some of that shame is not even our fault,
Yes.
it's things that happen to us. I just love how you open your book because you are really speaking to that person. You say, Sis, I prayed for this moment. I fought against Satan, the enemy of our souls, to be able to place this book in your hands. I ventured through the darkest, loneliest, and most gruesome valleys and pits that life had to offer. I wept as the pain of my past slowly depleted my joy, dismantled my self esteem, and diminished my reason for living. I did not know it, but the pain I ignored for 20 years started bursting through the seams. It affected every area of my life. My marriage suffered. I had strained relationships with my daughter. My spiritual growth came to a halt. I believed that the lie, I believed the lie that I was unworthy of love and belonging. I isolated myself from in the confines of my home so no one else could reject, abandon, or shame me for who I was. I knew my identity. I was the girl who no one wanted. I became a teenage mother. I was a young Christian woman and leader who had children before marriage. I was the girlfriend who never measured up. I was damaged goods, unable to find the remedy for the anxiety and depression that entangled my soul. What's wrong with me? How could God allow me to endure so much pain? Why me? I just was so moved when I read that. And what really spoke to me is that identity that starts to take shape, that was colored in by your pain and the
Yeah.
things that you've experienced in the past. And I just know that there may be people listening that when you hear that, you can resonate with that. You feel like that girl that's been rejected. You feel like you are damaged goods and that there is no hope for living in healing and the in the abundance and the health and the vitality that God has for your life in every area of your life, in your relationships, in your finances, in your emotional well-being, in your body, in your physical well-being. So, and I love what you say in your book that I think it's your first chapter where you say that what we are willing to confront, God is willing to heal. So, do you want to speak a little bit into that?
Yes, absolutely. Ooh, what you're willing to confront, God is willing to heal. And I wish it was as easy as it sounds. In fact, I'm a part of a mentorship class, and just last night we were speaking on the topic of shame and confronting the pain of your past. What I will share with the person listening that is not easy. It is not easy as I think we all hoped and wished and prayed that it would be, but the journey of inner healing is worth it. For
Mm,
so long, just as you said, Meliza, shame was my identity. It was the thing that I wore. My head was always down. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel valuable as a woman, as a mom, as all the roles that I've carried. It showed up in every aspect of my life. And what I had to do was unpack that shame. And for me, that journey came through counseling. And so there's a lot of t-shirts that I love that says Jesus and therapy, because that was very much so my journey. And so I had to sit in the shame. Who wants to do that? That's what we run from. That's what we have been avoiding. We have suppressed our feelings. We have numbed ourselves to the pain of our past. We do a lot of things. We have a lot of mechanisms to avoid the pain.
yeah,
But I've learned that the only way to heal is to grow and go through it
yeah,
with God. To know that you're not alone, to know that he's sitting next to you. He is weeping as you weep, as you revisit those painful memories. So I had to go back and peel the layers one by one. I had to revisit the shame of coming from a broken home. I didn't live in a two-parent household. The shame of living in poverty and not having enough and feeling like I didn't measure up to others. The shame of having parents who were very unhealthy and toxic and fought and called each other names in public while everyone was around. Sometimes our friends were around. I had to go back to that little girl who was still very much afraid and give her the biggest hug that I could, figuratively, of course, but to love on her and to let her know that we're safe now and we can go back to those harmful and ugly and dark places. We're doing it together, but not to hurt her, but to
Yeah,
find healing.
it's so awesome. Now, I had the privilege of working with you on this book as you wrote it. And one of the things that we talked about often is the one person you are writing for. So I want to ask you, who is that person that you are trying to reach? Who is she? And yeah,
That was a powerful exercise, and I still have my notes about my person, and I go back to it often. My person doesn't have an age. I would say it's for any woman, young or older, wiser, more experienced. But this book is truly for any woman who is hurting, who has never been given the voice or the opportunity to process the pain of her past. As a young child, I've experienced so much, and no one ever came to me to explain what was happening, to explain that I was safe or I was okay, or to explain what happened in our house wasn't okay. Like I never had a voice. And so this book, excuse me, is for the woman who doesn't feel like she has a voice, the woman who feels insignificant, like her life doesn't matter, the woman who is drowning in pain, maybe addiction, oppression, depression, anxiety, and fear, that woman who is stuck in the storm and is trying to find her way out to a new beginning, this book is for her.
yeah. And I love the fact that your book is so practical. You've got very specific activations and exercises and things where you really help people unpack the pain of the past and deal with those messages that they've received from that has shaped their wrong identity, you know. So I love that you've got heart to hearts in there, you've got grace moments in there, and you've
Thank
got
you.
those inner healing activities. It is so beautiful um, and powerful, a really, really powerful book. So, um, what would you say is your core message that you want your readers to take from your message?
If I had to pick just one, I would go with the subtitle of the book, You Are Worthy of a New Beginning. Because if you are hurting, if you're in the process of healing, especially from a painful past, whether it was things that were done to you or whether it was choices that you've made, the message that Satan, the enemy, the accuser, right, that he gives us is you're unworthy. You're
Yeah,
not good enough to start over. You don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to be respected. You don't deserve to be loved. You don't deserve a healthy family. You don't deserve this job. I mean, the messages go on and on and on, and they're so pervasive. And how many of you know it starts with one thing and then it just spirals and snowballs into all these other aspects of our lives? And so um if I had to pick one message, I would want my sister or maybe even my brother who's reading this book to know that you're worthy of a new beginning because God says so. He
yes,
looks over your life. He saw every day of your life, the mistakes, the pain, the shame. He saw it all, and he still calls us daughter and son. And he declares that we are forgiven and we're not guilty. And we don't have to be chained or entangled to the condemnation of our past anymore. We are truly new creations in Christ.
that's awesome. I love that. Absolutely love that. So let's talk a little bit about your experience writing and publishing. Um, Tell me, what was the most enjoyable part of writing and publishing your book?
I think the most enjoyable part, honestly, is when I began to work with you, and I mean that with all sincerity. Because for so long, I had this outline and I had a title, and I knew that I had so many parts of my story that I wanted to share, but I just didn't know how to put it all together. And so working with you, Meliza, I gained so much clarity on the message of Grace to Start Over. Once we started rolling together with the outline, stories just started to fill themselves in, all the pieces of the puzzle really came together. And so it was amazing to see that this book that just had a title and chapter
Yes.
name for so long was truly coming to life.
Yeah, I think there's something really great about having a very strong foundation to build on. Like if you know your outline, if you know your core message, if you know your reader, the person you are called to reach, then writing the book is so much easier. You don't get
Yes.
stuck. You don't get writer's block. You know what you want to
Yes.
say, and you just go ahead and you say it. You get it out. And then you can do all the refining and all the different things that comes with publishing after that. But you were an absolute dream to work with. And
Oh.
I genuinely just believe in this book so much. It's definitely a message that every woman needs to read, because we all have suffered at some point of some
Yes.
kind of trauma. And I know firsthand that there is an enemy that comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and he does not want you to know who you truly are. He's after your identity, he's after your purpose.
Absolutely.
So it is, yeah, I was very excited to be able to partner with you in this venture. So I wanted to ask you as well, what has been the most challenging part for you as an author?
The most challenging part, I would say, oh, the message that God has given me. So, Grace to Start Over is my heart, it is my passion. I want women to know that they can be healed and whole on this side of heaven, right? However, that took a lot of vulnerability. That took digging back into my past, into some painful memories. And then I had to decide, do I want to share this? Do I want people to know about this part? How do I say this? Will this hurt my family members or others? Like, how will this book impact others in my sphere? So that was the most challenging part. But I think what helped me to persevere was thinking about that one person. And that's what makes it worth it. This message is not to shame or to blame anyone, but it truly is my story, and I wanted to share it because I know I'm not alone. And so if this book can reach one woman and she realizes that she's worthy of a new beginning and she can start taking practical steps toward that future she's been hoping for and praying about, then it's worth it. It's worth it for me to talk about my abuse. It's worth it for me to talk about the shame that I experienced. It's worth it to talk about my pain if it's going to set her free.
Yeah, we don't talk enough about the courage it takes to share your heart authentically with people. We
Yes.
just don't talk enough about it. And as an author, when you are writing your book, there's so much that gets still exposed in your own heart and that comes to
Yeah.
light. It gets uncomfortable. I
Mhm.
remember when I wrote Untangled, I felt more tangled up in than I've ever been in my life,
Yes.
you know. So it's a process. You really have to take care of your own heart as well in the writing journey. So on that note, what advice would you give for someone who is in the process or thinking about writing their book?
And it's so funny because once you write a book, then people are like, well, how did you do it? And who did you work with? What's next? What do I do? I would say one of the most important things that I could give someone else is to spend that time in the quiet place with God. In that secret place with God, because you're absolutely right, Meliza. And I don't want to sound religious or super spiritual. It's not none of that, but it really is a healing process, first for you and then for the person who's going to be reading it. And so as these memories would come up, I really had to go back in that place of being loved by my father and affirmed by my father and reminded of how valuable I am to him. Because of course the enemy wants you to get, as you're going back through these memories and reflecting on your past, he wants you to get entangled, just as you said, and stay stuck in the pain and stay stuck in the darkness and stay stuck in unforgiveness. But it truly is a partnership with God. As he's healing you, as he's freeing you, then you'll be able to give that message to others with the power and the authority that God has given you. So I would say stay in that place with him. Your message is not insignificant, but begin to pray and allow God to just pour into you as much as you want to pour out into others.
Yeah, that's awesome. I I think, you know, one of the things when I read your manuscript was just one of the things that really kind of stayed with me is the fact that we are so quick to give grace to other people, right? We're
Yes.
so quick to give grace, and we look at other people. We know God loves them. We know they are worthy. We know they are wonderful. But when it comes to extending that grace to ourselves, And often when you as a writer, you start to see your own issues make an appearance in that writing process,
Mhm.
you don't always have grace for yourself. Like, I know
No.
one of the things for me is I just constantly wanted to disqualify myself from being a writer or an author on the subject. But the truth is that we get healing in layers and levels.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where we are in the journey. God is with us. He's going to help us
Yeah.
get untangled, get free, find the grace to start over. And I just want to leave this conversation with a final quote from your book. It says, "Sis, healing is a partnership between God and us." And I just want to say, writing a book is a partnership.
Yes.
I love that you mentioned like writing from the secret place. Like, you want to be in God's presence. That is the safest place you can be when you're, especially when you're sharing from a place of vulnerability. And you say he could do all the work for us, but he chooses to empower us to overcome the obstacles instead. Through our surrender, we encounter God's love, power, and purpose for our lives in a way we could never imagine. Our confidence soars as we grow in our identity and authority in Christ. We learn with God we can do hard things, even write a book. And because of God's love, we were created to live a beautiful future. I just love that so much. So, Ginia, how can people get a hold of your book?
That is a great question. And one I'm so excited to answer today, especially anyone in this group, the work and the tears and the effort that it takes to create this book. So you can purchase this book on Amazon. It is available in paperback or electronically through Kindle. You can also come if you're in the US and close to the DMV area. I am hosting a Grace Encounter celebration for the Grace to Start Over. So you're more than welcome to come celebrate with me in person. There's going to be question and answer sessions, powerful testimonies shared through dance and song and so forth. And I will be signing in, I have books for sale and signing those books as well. So that's happening April 6th at 2 p.m. And you can reach out to me personally for more information on that.
Yeah, I'm going to put some links in the comment and the description areas on YouTube and Facebook. So you'll be able to connect with Ginia. You'll be able to find out all the details, follow her on social media. She is so amazing on social media, the messages and all the different things that she does. She's like a wonderful person to follow. And she has a free resource for you as well, a 7-day devotional that's going to help you combat negative thinking. And yeah, that's great because the battle is all in here, right?
Yes.
Starts with our thoughts. So that's a wonderful resource to have. Ginia, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story, for sharing your journey in writing and publishing your book. It was amazing to have you, and I can't wait for the next time.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for believing in the message and partnering with me to publish this book. And Meliza truly is, she's a champion, you guys. So if you are considering, I know this is about Grace to Start Over, but if you are considering writing a book, I encourage you to get with Meliza. She is spirit-filled. She really has a heart for you, a heart for your message. I can't tell you how many times we started a session and we pray together, and I'm like, hold on, wait, let me share what's happening in real life right now, and then we'll move on into the writing. And so she is a treasure.
Yeah.
I would reach out to her. I would reach out to her company. She just launched it yesterday, Paper Crown Media. I'm so excited for that. But you won't be disappointed. And I don't know about you, but God has given us talents and gifts, and I don't want to bury mine anymore out of fear or shame. So get with her, partner with her, and see your message come to life too.
Wow, awesome. Now
You
that's
didn't know I
a
was going to do
wonderful
that.
testimonial. Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, thank you so much, Ginia. You were an absolute dream to work with. And yeah, just blessings on your book. I just pray that it gets into the hands and the hearts of every woman who needs to hear that message. I know it's such an important, powerful, freedom bringing message. So yeah, I appreciate you so much. You're
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Remember to subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on YouTube. And yeah, let us know how you're doing. Are you writing? What we can help you with? We would love to get to know you more. Have an awesome day. Bye.